to another episode of What We're Listening To. I'm here in the... We're not in a studio. No. We're in Brad's attic.
We're in the cheese fry booth.
Just looking over at Brad, and he's just like in his own little world because he has headphones on inside of his headphones, listening to the album, and he's just over there like kind of looking around.
I'm tripping.
Before we welcome the audience back, I'd like to just point out that Brad looks like the announcer on every late night talk show. He's sitting on a stool
right,
with his headphones on, giggling to himself. It's a vision.
I prefer to be Paul Schaefer. Wave my hand around.
How has Paul Schaefer managed to weasel himself into every reunion concert? He'll be playing keyboards.
He's Paul
because
Schaefer.
He's played with everybody, yeah. On
Better
the show one.
Thing with that is he plays a keyboard that you can't hear ever.
That's how you get really good.
I think he's on a rider. Like, you just have to include Paul Schaefer.
Anyone who's ever played the Letterman show has to sign away rights to have
the Schaefer waiver.
The Schaefer waiver, yeah.
Schaefer wafer's different.
Oh, yeah. What are we doing? What is this show?
Oh, I'm here with Wade, too. Hi, Wade.
Hey.
What is this show? We are listening to an album together.
This isn't Belonging Songs.
This is what we're listening to. This is a special added bonus for our listeners that we come in with every month and a half.
Once a month.
Just to check in.
Yeah.
Make sure you're listening to new music.
While we write new music.
And exploring hot dogs.
That's probably the main point of the show.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to bury the lead.
Right.
Yeah, so anyway, this week we're going to be listening to St. Vincent's new album. For our listeners who haven't listened to much St. Vincent.
Tell me the name of the album, Patrick.
Daddy's Home.
Do you want to host? He's gonna blow.
I just wanted him to look at me when he said
Do
that.
you want to host the show?
I actually want to talk a little bit about the title of the album and the title track of the album because it's a pretty interesting personal story about St. Vincent.
We're at Brad's home right now.
In the attic.
Daddy's home.
We need to start this whole podcast
No,
I think you might be right.
I didn't know about what you're going to talk about until I was listening to this today in preparation for this show.
Well, you've done more prep than Brad has.
Is that what you're supposed to do? Because I have earphones and earphones.
So last week, listeners will remember, Brad was not on the second half of the Belonging Songs.
I don't know if listeners will know, because we had a pretty seamless
we did
technology.
Yeah. Brad Bot filled in admirably, but Brad wasn't there because he was on a plane basically for 20 hours. Ample time to listen to Daddy's Home.
Daddy's Home.
But he's catching up now.
Brad,
what track are you on?
I didn't. I'm on Daddy's Home.
Oh, you're at the beginning still.
Well, I just started at the beginning.
Do you want me to come back tomorrow?
Nope.
I know.
Okay.
No. I'm going to take it to where I need it. I listened to half of it.
Where I need it is you to finish the album.
That's where I need it.
All right, well, we'll catch up with Brad later in the show. He's going to report from the field.
I told Patrick...
Maybe we have to fire up Brad Bot again.
I told him
I'm
just going to be the color guy. And I'll just be, oh, yeah, it's a good track. I'm listening to it now. It's a good track.
Great
this is called What We're Listening To. Now.
All right. You guys want a live show? We'll give you a live show.
Oh, this show is live every time.
It's live whenever you want it to be. I have to do this
every day.
Yeah.
So 2021 release came out probably May. I can't remember. I didn't write that down.
It may have come out.
Ooh, good one. Annie Aaron Clark, St. Vincent's real name. Pretty experienced musician. I think she first came to any kind of fame with the Polyphonic Spree.
Mm-hmm.
But I think everybody
was
in the
40
Polyphonic Spree. Paul Schaefer probably was in the Polyphonic Spree.
Brad, did you do a stint with them at all?
I was there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. You?
Just when I rolled through Canada.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
She also toured with Sufjan Stevens, was part of his touring band, and then struck out on her own. She also attended Berklee School of Music, just like someone we know.
She dropped out.
Yeah.
We know a graduate.
Yeah, you know why she dropped out, Wayne?
Because she's really
she
good.
thought it was stifling her art.
Yep.
Did you ever use that line with any of your professors?
I thought about it. My very last music production class felt very much like that. Like I've told Brad, I have 3 demos of songs that we've never listened to because they're horrible. Because it was all about, I don't know, that doesn't sound like how it should.
Yeah.
How don't you do this? And I'd have to listen, and I hated how they turned out.
It is a pretty interesting conversation. I read a little bit of the interview where she was talking about dropping out and just what extent can you teach art, especially from a songwriting perspective. How much of that should be based on a measurable rubric?
I think the only thing to teach is discipline.
Right. Or process.
Yeah, process and discipline. Because if you're not naturally born with that, but you have the talent, then you probably need that as a guide.
And it's got to be difficult for an avant-garde musician like her, too. It's hard to define her style other than rock.
I would call it severely underrated. In my opinion.
I think I would go with that too. It's an interesting story, the fact that she got into a prestigious school like someone we know and decided, nah, I'm going to do it on my own, and then goes on to write incredible music.
Yeah.
Anyway, born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Have any of you been to Tulsa?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
I have had the pleasure.
Was it warm?
It is warm. There's lots of bugs.
Oh, I don't like it.
Snakes.
Is there an outside?
Tarantulas.
Wait, no.
There is a terrifying ultra-Orthodox Christian university. Oral Roberts University.
Oral.
So outside of Oral Roberts University, and this is like the big landmark in town, there's a giant set of praying hands, and then all of the buildings on campus looked like flying saucers. Very, very bizarre.
All right.
So if we have any listeners at Oral Roberts, I think we just lost them.
I don't think we do.
Okay. Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Patrick's Trivia!
Also home of Weird Al Yankovic's UHF.
Wait, how did you say that?
Home of.
No.
Did you call him Yankovic? Did I hear that correctly?
I don't know.
Brad can't hear anything. He's fucking listening to headphones.
I tell you what.
Like, somebody take a picture of Brad with his headphones on his
The
headphones.
second half of this is pretty good.
Oh, the album
Yeah,
or his podcast?
the album. Yeah.
Are you skipping?
No.
Oh, let's go back to this Yankovic business.
Yeah.
Is that how you say his name?
That's how I thought you say his name.
Is that how you say it, Brad? I could be wrong. Somebody's been saying it wrong their whole lives.
I think might be us, because I trust Patrick more than us.
He's a doctor.
How do you guys? This begs the question, how do you say it?
Weird Al Yankovic.
Say that one more time.
Weird Al Yankovic.
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 Yeah,
I'm with Brad on the Yankovic.
We'll look
Where'd
it
you
up
get
later.
is there an L in there?
I might have put an L in there.
I'm going to see if there is an L.
Listeners, if you are listening out there right now, feel free to call in 555-1212-2460.
So yeah.
No L?
Yankovic.
Okay, there's no L. We just learned something today.
Okay.
Do you even like Weird Al?
No, I don't. Though I like that movie an awful lot.
UHS is good.
Did you say UHS?
I think he did. What is happening?
Is it not called UHS?
VHS is a great
Is
movie.
it not called VHS?
I did just read that he's gone straight. He's just doing serious folk music now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was his first love.
And I think dropped the weird from his name.
Oh, so he's Al Yankovic.
Yeah, it's going to be like a Johnny Cougar kind of situation.
Just John.
Yeah.
Yeah, just John. Also, movie history with Tulsa, parts of The Outsiders. Am I saying The Outsiders correctly?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, that was shot in Tulsa. We talk about baseball every now and then. Sammy Sosa played in Tulsa for
collegiately.
No, for
Cool.
their AA affiliate. All right, should we talk about the album then?
Yeah.
There's probably more Tulsa facts, right?
I mean, I've given you all the Tulsa facts.
I mean, but if you were in Tulsa, like, what would you do?
Aren't we missing one key Tulsa
Oh, you're talking
fact?
about hot dogs?
Yeah.
Oh, look who's back and wants to host now.
We're making sure that you have the right notes, because you do only have half of your notes.
This is when I'm the rails.
So we're not going to talk about hot dogs today.
Okay.
We are going to talk
Is
about...
it because Home Depot got rid of them?
Well, we can talk about that. We should talk about that. So we're going to talk about sausages in general.
Okay.
So...
Wade's back.
Sorry.
So now I'm a little hesitant to even try to pronounce this, so we'll ask Brad how to say it first.
We've got it. Don't ask me.
Siegis. Would you say Siggies? Suggin. Siggies?
Siggies?
Siggies, yeah.
Siggy
Siggies,
piggy,
Siggies.
Zicky piggy.
EI would be a Sai or a C.
If you're from Tulsa and you don't go to Oral Roberts University, leave us a message. Let us know how to pronounce this. Siggy's Sausage Factory makes 15 different kinds of sausages. Predominantly a German restaurant, but they also have a shop where you can buy their sausages online. You guys will be receiving some Siggy sausages in the mail. Despite the fact you're both assholes, I buy you gifts. They were founded in 1980. Aside from the online brochure, they also do meat processing. So it's like this.
You can send your deer there?
Yeah. Get sausage made.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say, was Brad founded in 1980, but you were later than that, right?
I was founded in 1982.
Okay.
They do make a traditional Frankfurter. So that's what I ordered for you guys.
Nice.
Okay.
So just keep it honest.
We going to get together and consume these?
Probably not, because this is probably our
This is
last
not going
meeting
well.
together. Place looks pretty darn legit. I mean, just look at the landing page of their website.
Yeah.
I'd say Siggies.
Yeah, Siggy's?
Now that you're looking at it.
Ziggy's a good comic.
Yeah, Ziggy.
Yeah. Grilling up quality brats since
That's
1980.
That's legit.
All right, let's talk about this album because I've got to get going back to work.
Mm-hmm.
So, album starts off, track 1, Pay Your Way in Pain, which I think sets up the entire theme for this album. If I have any, I guess, complaints right off the bat, is this album does not vary on subject matter very much.
It doesn't.
This song's obviously, to me, about being down and out in the worst way. I get a lot of themes throughout this album of addiction, of a life not led the way it was supposed to pan out. Like I said, it's the theme for the album. One thing I really liked about this track is the ending, which ends on this scream of just frustration, which I think was amazing.
Yeah, it's like a Kurt Cobain-ish.
Kirk Cameron.
Yeah, but the intro starts out and throws you a left hook almost immediately. Like, it sounds very Beatlesque coming in, but then she starts doing these squeaks and Fiona Apple type of
that's a good comparison.
noises.
I agree.
But then it's like, bam, Prince song. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's about a shit day. Pay your way in pain, pay your way in shame. That's like the chorus and the main theme of it. I thought it was cool. There's a lot going on in all these songs.
Yeah,
and job-wise and just noises and little things all over the place.
That's pretty characteristic for her and her style, but I agree it's sort of a successful cacophony.
I think she turned it up to 11 though on this one. Her other albums were more guitar first. Like, she would make a lot of sounds with the guitars and things like that. This has got a lot of stuff in it. Like Wade said,
This whole album is a vibe.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a vibe album.
And it's a throwback vibe.
It is 14 tracks, but it's only 40-some minutes. So
Yeah, I was surprised. I listened to this a while back, a couple weeks ago, and then I listened to it this morning again because it had been a while. And yeah, there's a lot of tracks, but it goes by quick. So I was surprised by that because I sat down this morning and was like, oh, I got to refresh myself.
There's 3 like interlude
yeah,
things
they're
on
pretty
there,
short.
right?
Brad, have you listened to that song yet?
I'm listening to it right now.
Cool. How's it going?
It's good.
Any other thoughts?
I think as a whole, this whole thing, and especially as we've been sitting here and I've been listening to it, like you said, it's a good vibe. It's soundtracky, almost, like the music portion of it. I can't speak too much on the lyrics.
Like a Scorsese film.
Kind of.
So it's all red. Or it has a walking through a kitchen scene.
Yeah.
You're walking along with it, kind of.
I think maybe for what we're listening to, Brad should just be in the corner listening to the album.
That's the new way.
I actually kind of like it. Let's move on to track 2.
I will do that right now.
Following on the theme, Down and Out Downtown. Guess what? It's about a shit day and a shit life.
More like a shit morning.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Walk of Shame song.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wrote. I wrote morning after, Walk of Fame. This person went out partying.
Mm-hmm.
I get the impression they got stoned. They didn't want to get stoned.
Maybe had a one-night stand.
Yeah, they're heading home. They're like, what the fuck did I do?
They're far away from home.
Yeah.
Lost their pants.
This is where the album, I think, takes on this, and I think it stays for most of the album, this 70s kind of soul vibe.
Yeah, the first song doesn't get into that as much.
Yeah.
It's more like I said, it really reminded me of a Prince song, more 80s-ish. In modern stuff, but yeah, you're right. This song, we really dive into that like 70s.
The bass groove,
noir.
the electric piano,
the drums,
Wurlitzer, and sitar on this album.
Well, let's pause there for a second. This album uses a lot of sitar, and I think really effectively and in really new ways. We'll talk about a track later called Down that I think is super cool. How sitar is incorporated. It's like funky sitar. It's
got like a little wah-wah kind of deal to it.
So a lot of these remind me of like when the Beatles started doing drugs. And they started using sitar.
When Ringo was down and out downtown.
Yeah, but there's a lot of
I like how
references
it's mirrored with a regular guitar in this song particularly.
Yeah, it's not shticky.
No, it's really
like you would think it would.
It gives it like a spine, and then the sitar is more like the reverb portion of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that.
I get the sense of the protagonist really trying to fill a void in their life with all this substance. There's a lot of substance abuse in this.
It's at least 3/4 of the album talks about that as a theme.
One of my favorite lyrics from this was, and the Joker with the funny laugh is digging through the basement of my past. It's just a lot of regret and shame in this song, and it does carry over.
It's interesting, too, because I don't get the sense it's autobiographical, any of it. I think it's relationships she's had, people she's experienced. I mean, there's some obvious autobiography in some of the songs, but... Yeah,
I feel like she really targeted this vibe, like, for the whole sound, and as she was doing that, I think she started being influenced lyrically. I don't know, some of the sounds just are like gritty and like sleazy, like I'm in the city in an alley, there's smoke and parties, and I don't know, and I feel like she really dove in effectively to that whole vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. Next track, title track, Daddy's Home.
You were gonna talk about this earlier.
We were gonna talk about this earlier. So this song and this album are a direct response to her dad coming home from jail. Her dad was sentenced for one of the biggest financial frauds of the last couple decades through some stock market dealings that are way above my pay grade, understanding how he manipulated the stock market.
And what are they, NTEs? Was it an NTE deal?
Non-fungible transfers.
NTF?
That was a VHS. That Yankovic
I
movie.
want to get everything off almost just a tiny bit.
I think that's a lyric on this album.
Yeah, I didn't know that until this morning. Like I said, I pull up the lyrics as I'm listening. I try to, just so I can get a better sense of what these songs are about when we do these episodes. And there was like a little footnote on this one. The theme of the song you really get. Like, okay, we're talking about somebody getting out of prison, and there's talks of like, okay, you did time, but I also did, because it's hard on the people who, have relatives or significant others who go to prison. They are suffering with them. So that theme all comes through. But I didn't know it was.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting approach to the songwriting too, because you can tell it's inspired by her dad if you know that story. But I think it addresses other issues of incarceration in there, especially from the family perspective, and how it disenfranchises the innocent people involved with this person.
Yeah.
I like it.
Cool. Moving on. Next one, Live in the Dream. Live in the Dream. See what she did there. Really eerie vibe. More sitar.
Lots of sitar.
The highlight for this track to me is the guitar solo. I think it's this Roger Waters.
That's funny. I have
Pink Floyd-y kind of thing.
That's my note. Dark Side of the Moon-ish.
Yeah.
And very dreamlike.
I think there's a lyric about like the dark side of the moon.
Well, I have that. It's on the next song. She comes in with that. I was like, oh, that's ironic. Or probably not. I'm sure it was thought out. But yeah, there's harp in this song. Mm-hmm. It's very dreamlike because for me, this song is about somebody coming out of basically an overdose or a blackout who's on the brink of death, and there's people gathered around. She's like, oh, we almost called the cops. But the music really fits somebody coming out of this haze or blackout. And there's harps, there's piano, there's chorused vocals, there's sitar, there's like little acoustic guitar things, and it's all pan-jobbed around in this very sweeping and dreamlike state.
Yeah, I got like this angelic vibe of like a near-death experience, I think, comes through in the production.
Yeah, because so like the character who's blacked out or almost dies from the overdose really is seeing the light, and it's all these people standing around as they come out of it.
Brad, you get there yet?
I think the Pink Floyd reference is perfect because it's definitely in that mood. And I like the way this thing's building, which is really great.
The very first time I listened to this album, I was really anticipating it. I'm a big fan of St. Vincent. And it was one of those cases where I think I was a little let down because I had such high expectations. But on the second listen, that went away and I enjoyed it much more. But,
yeah, I don't want to talk pizza yet, but I had the exact same feeling, and part of that because I'm just as big of a fan of her work as you are.
No, you're not.
Want to bet? Want to meet at the flagpole after school? My favorite St. Vincent album is her last album, Mass Education. I think was almost a perfect album, and so it was really hard for me to come into this with any kind of tempered expectation, but as I give it more listens, it's finding its spot.
Was it Mass Education or Mass Seduction?
It's Mass Seduction. I misspoke again.
Back to the Pink Floyd thing. One of the things I think that got me the first time was this album kind of made me tired. And there's certain music that does that, and Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon is one. And that could be a result of my body remembering that I used to smoke a lot of weed back when I discovered that.
You have battery or odor.
It's warm in here. And Beck's Odelay also does that. Because when that came out, was prime like, oh, I'm 16 and don't have shit to do, so I smoke weed. Now I'm an adult and I'm not 16 and I have shit to do. So like,
cool story.
But I don't know. I got like really tired listening to this the first time, and I don't
like this track or
the
just
whole
the
album, but this track in particular.
I would say this track in particular is a little long-winded. It's
is this the one that does? Yeah, this one does the super long fade out, right?
Yeah, so like I'm 3:30 in, and it's not really moving anywhere else for me. I like it.
Production note I noticed on the way over because I was listening on the way over as well. On that really long fade out, there's a reverb on the snare, but the snare hits, and it's in the middle of the mix, but the reverb's all the way over to the left, which is kind of a neat production trick. And then she's got some little guitar stuff going on to balance it out on the other side. I thought that was really cool.
Cool, yeah, I didn't pick that up. I'll have to listen for that. Track 5, The Melting of the Sun. Another song about tragedy. This one, I get the sense.
I felt like more cautionary tale looking at other people going through like the drug abuse and...
Well, yeah, so what I got is this person was physically or emotionally abused. They then drown themselves in substance abuse, and you're right, it's very cautionary.
I almost felt like it was the character looking at multiple people go through either drug abuse or spousal abuse or whatever, and maybe the character also, I don't know, there was almost this weird like, I can get through it because other people have, or she mentions like, I can watch you do it so I don't have to. Almost get that vibe where it's like
vicarious,
almost living vicarious through him. Yeah, I don't know if you guys got that at all, or if I made any sense trying to explain that.
I think you did. I think this song's got a like a Steely Dan feel to it.
Yeah, the choruses are really great.
It's really and the backing vocals in the chorus.
Yeah,
is really exceptional.
I love the piano in this song.
Absolutely,
it's really subtle. It's acoustic piano.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost stark in its pluckiness, given the lyrics.
But it's still got that sort of squawky 70s electric piano in it.
Yep.
It has a little paka paka paka, which
And then
big fan.
the thing I love about this song too, which you guys know, I love the abrupt end because it's someone probably died.
It's interesting that the track before had not just a fade out, but an extra long fade out, and then this one does the abrupt end.
How intentional do you think that is when she's putting the album together?
I think it's very intentional. We've talked about album construction and how it's kind of a lost art, but when you do listen to something like this, when you put an album together, you got to think about that. Like, how is this going to flow? Like, okay, I've just had two bangers. Like, we need to slow it down. Stuff like that. So I think it's intentional.
Do you think she's teetering on...
Mashed. 2 bangers, 1 mashed.
Yeah, bangers and mash.
Do you think she's teetering on, like, concept album?
Oh, yeah.
I think all of her albums are teetering on.
The other ones have been ish, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's a concept album in like a Pink Floyd kind of way.
Yeah, I think Pink Floyd's a good comparison. I think David Byrne's a good comparison, who she's toured with.
Yeah, they've done an album together.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't tell one story in succession.
Almost like an anthology, but we're all connected by these little threads.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I would explain it. It's interesting. What I do
we're in
like
the same universe.
What I do like about this album is how the songs sound like what I like to do in my songs, or try to do, where the music sounds like the story.
Yeah, the theme.
I really like that. This song is one of them. Just a really good song.
I mean, the other thing that does that is the Airwolf theme song.
Yeah.
I mean, you know a badass helicopter's coming out of a volcano.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's the only way.
Yeah. Next track is an interlude. 3 interludes on this album.
I have issue with that. We'll get to it when we get somewhere else in the album.
The last track is an interlude.
Yeah, I think that doesn't make it an interlude. I'm pretty sure. Unless you have this on loop.
Yeah.
Well, that's like Nathaniel Rateliff, his like 5th song in on their last album is called Intro. Like, what? Doesn't work.
It's a Brad song right there.
But this one, this interlude in particular, has a little substance, and I actually really like it. It is almost like a fleeting memory of somebody, and again, because of the vibe of this album, you almost get it like coming out of a drunken or drugged haze, and the character in this song is like seeing her mother like in the kitchen or something. Heroin. Do you think?
I think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I almost took it like a childhood memory of the mom in the kitchen, and it's just like this hazy thing that you remember, and then like sinking back into depravity.
That's interesting that you said that, because I got a very similar vision of like a 1950s kitchen, like the Jude Cleaver kind of mom, except she's got this dark, sordid thing. And the narrator, the kid at that time, remembers this idyllic childhood, but it's like a therapy session.
Okay,
sparks this memory.
Actually, it wasn't so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it could be taken different ways. But I thought it was cool, because it's like just this little glimpse.
Yeah.
And then goes away.
Yeah, it's another example of the dreamlike production and writing.
Mm-hmm.
Track 7, The Laughing Man, which is probably my least favorite track out of the bunch. Not that it's a bad song, but wasn't very remarkable for me, so let you guys weigh in.
This was one that it takes a little shift with the 911 caller. I actually like the first line. It was like, 911, what's your emergency? I'm in love. It's like a little cheeky, and there's like the actual sound of the telephone. But the theme of the song, this one was one where it was a little more obscure. Like, I didn't know as much. There was only 2 on here that I didn't really get, and this was one of them. I just have like the numbing feeling of just living everyday life and experiencing loss. I kind of think that's what it's about. Like the lyric, if life's a joke, then I'm dying laughing. But I also had a question mark because I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, so my note on this song is it's almost like she watched the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie and was like, I'm going to tell a story from that same perspective, like the tortured soul kind of clown. It didn't really gel with me like the rest of the album.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think it's got a really slow cadence.
I think you could call it certified middle track.
Stamp it approved.
It's not extremely long, but it feels long.
Yeah, which is not a compliment.
No, it's not. So I agree with you guys on that one.
All right, the next song, I guess I'm a little embarrassed to say it because I think this is the single, but this is my highlight track. Mm-hmm. It's probably also the most Saint Vincent song on the track, if you can even say that. Yeah. But it's called Down. It's got this incredible, funky, syncopated vibe, and it's got a banger of a sitar in it.
Yep. Yeah, this one kicks it up a little bit. Again, about abuse, about abusers making excuses, like, oh, I'm sorry, it won't happen again type of thing. But as a little twist, the protagonist of this song actually has had enough and stands up for herself, which is a nice little reprieve from the rest of the album.
Yeah, it's kind of the Tina Turner story.
Yep.
It's just, I love this song. I love the composition of it.
Yeah, it basically culminates with the character saying, like, Brad, this reminded me of your song 1 out of 10. Basically, the character's like, I don't care what you do. Just don't do it here.
Not with me.
Yeah, not with me. Yep,
yeah.
Done.
I like the way this builds into the chorus because the chorus is pretty big.
Yep.
And it takes a little time to get there, but then it's a really cool groove when you land it. The background vocals are really cool. Really 70s vibe on it. Yeah.
That track's gotten more plays than the album has had plays.
So I forgot about highlight tracks, but I think maybe The Melting of the Sun might be mine.
That's on my top 3.
And we passed that already. So.
Yeah.
And we're coming up on, I think, my number 2.
I have one coming up, yeah.
Track 10, Somebody Like Me.
But you're skipping over the interlude 2.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Interlude 2.
Okay.
This one, no lyrics.
No lyrics.
This is straight interlude.
Yeah. Sorry, thanks, Brad.
You're welcome.
Calling out my bullshit. Somebody Like Me, track 10. This has a really jazzy kind of brushes, shuffling, snare. It's a song to me that is somebody in their late 30s, like St. Vincent is, that is asking questions about the trappings of marriage and of that, I guess, whatever you want to call normal life versus this artistic life that she's probably leading.
If I'm not mistaken, there's a couple tracks like that right in a row here, right?
Yeah, the next track for sure continues on that theme.
But this one's more about marriage than, I guess, the next one. Sorry, I kind of spoiled that. But
you guys that have listened to the lyrics in depth, do you think the interlude is a division with the themes? Is one batch of those abuse and one batch is contemplation of a different...
That's an interesting theme, except for track 12. I think it gets knocked off the rails again.
Well, yeah. Okay. We'll get there.
Yeah.
My thought process there was maybe the last interlude was like a TBD or a ... sort of on the end of
maybe.
it.
It's a good thought.
There's also a lot of self-doubt in this song.
It's a really good song, I think.
Yeah.
This was one of when I was doing what I do, where I go through and listen to a little bit of everything.
Like you're doing right now?
But now I'm riding it, you know. I stopped and listened to this whole thing, right? So it caught me.
It's an interesting theme because it's like exploring, okay, the two characters in this song meet. There's a connection, but then the main character's like, well, what's wrong with this person? Why would they like me?
Yeah.
And then it gets into this all self-doubt and then doubting that person because, like, oh, something must be wrong with them.
Which is a very common thing in humanity, I think. Am I wrong?
But then in the song, they kind of do get married, right? But even then, she's still like, well, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it is. These next two are definitely, the theme is uncertainty.
Yeah.
Track 11 is a track by Harnell Slynn called You're Gone, which is also called...
I did think of that.
My Baby Wants a Baby.
Yep.
An obvious theme here. I mean, there's no covering up the lyrics. This is about, do I want a kid or do I not? What happens if I don't have a kid?
And a lot about, like, am I capable of raising a child and the pressures that are put on women, especially, to have children. Also, did anybody else get the Last Christmas by Wham vibe off of this?
Yeah.
Getting it right now.
So it took me probably 4 listens of this song. I'm like, where have I?
That's what I was doing
this?
too. I was like, this is something. This is a thing. And then I was like, oh, it's Wham.
This is a really cool kind of a lullaby cadence.
Mm-hmm. Well, which makes sense for
Yeah.
the theme of the song too.
Right.
Yeah.
Track 12, At the Holiday Party, is probably my second favorite track. Beating the theme to death, but this is... What I get is that she's looking at a friend who is disintegrating, right? And she wants to love this friend, and she wants to show her friend that she's loved. She shows up to every party fucking wasted and just can't get back on track. And I think it's a theme we've all dealt with friends and addiction, and that, oh my God, here you are again, and I want to get you out of this, but you're, lost. I love how she sings the chorus in this song. They're like soaring, ethereal, almost crying, kind of wailing. There's this little funk riff in the background, which is an interesting juxtaposition. I think it's probably intentional, that whole idea of we're at a party and this tragedy's happening. Beautiful song. I love this song.
You Can't Hide From Me, right? Yeah.
I thought the person she's seeing has this facade of everything's okay.
Absolutely.
But she sees through it. But I also got the theme of expectations of life being put on people.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, especially like creative people, because she mentions like, oh, have you written your screenplay or whatever? And I feel like this is kind of a commentary on creative people, especially when they don't realize their dreams and they are forced into this more like normal life, like how hard that can be.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of what's going on in this song almost.
This one's a standout track for me.
Easily one of the best.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be one of her best songs.
I would also agree with that. Yeah, I think, for me, Down is easily digestible. It's got a hook.
Right.
This is a much more masterfully composed.
Very
song.
crafted. Like, after the chorus, the first chorus, there's those horns and like this whole other section of song. And it builds up and then it right back down to the groove, and then it does it again. And it's very well built and very well sung. Like you said.
This is what I was alluding to when I described her music as underrated, because there's the songs like Down where people know, but
then there's
she
this.
is so good at crafting songs.
Yeah, and for those of you listening who have not had an opportunity to see her live, just as good.
Yeah, really.
I've only seen her once. I hope to see her again this year, but it's rare that I leave a concert that's 2 hours long and I'm wanting more.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm not ready to go home yet. Track 13, Candy Darling, a song about prostitutes.
This is one I didn't know the theme about.
I think it's prostitutes.
Well, I had no idea, and then I looked into it more, and it's actually about an actress named Candy Darling that was in Andy Warhol films.
Was she a prostitute?
I don't know. She was in a film called Flesh.
Okay.
And Women in Revolt. So,
what was her name?
Candy Darling. So, I didn't know that.
Let's look.
This is another very like ethereal, thematic.
But it's one of those songs where like it got stuck in my head afterwards, and I liked it, but I'm like kind of singing along to it, like I don't know what this is about.
Oh, she was a Velvet Underground muse, which is no secret with the Andy Warhol connection.
Yeah, part of this whole time period. Maybe somebody who suffered some of these themes from these songs, almost a tragic character.
At the end of her life, she died of lymphoma at 29 years old.
Oh, wow.
She said, unfortunately, before my death, I had no desire left for life. I'm just so bored by everything.
Yeah.
So I think it goes hand in hand with kind of the tragedy theme of the album. Track 14, highlight track, Interlude 3.
Interlude 3. This one did have a couple lyrics, right?
I think, were they the same as the
They weren't the same,
one?
and they didn't really make sense. I think, to me, I took it as another, like, fleeting memory reflection, maybe something personal that we wouldn't or shouldn't know about. That's it.
Brad's thinking.
Right?
I'm listening. Feeling it.
Interlude 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that does it.
Mm-hmm.
We have somehow babbled our way.
We made it.
Through another episode of What We're Listening To. We learned how to pronounce some names of movies
Maybe.
and singers.
In hot dog places.
Hot dog places. We learned that St. Vincent, despite being a star, is underrated, which I would go along with that. We learned that Brad doesn't do anything on airplanes.
Nope.
I watched The Departed.
It's a good movie.
It's good.
Scorsese, callback.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, tie-in.
Trying to think of the kitchen scene. Yeah, it was there. They had it.
We will get back to our regular scheduled programming. We don't have an album to listen to next, but I have some ideas, so I'll run those.
One more
by
What
you
We're
guys.
Listening To left this season.
Yeah.
Oh, woo!
This is the penultimate What We're Listening To.
It is the penultimate what we're listening to. We should have
For
a
season
celebration.
2.
Anyway, remember to check out our social media. We are
Hungry?
BS at Belonging Songs. We have a website that is belongingsongs.com. We are hungry but have to wait for hot dogs to get delivered to our doorstep. We have stickers. We have an Instagram account. That's
Maybe we should order something else.
at Belonging Songs. We order pizza, which you can just kind of splice in there. This is why we have notes. So, it is that time in the podcast to ask, if this were a pizza,
This album were a pizza.
what kind of pizza would it be?
You want me to go first?
Not really. Brad, go ahead.
I can't. I'm
Wait,
not ready.
go ahead.
Okay. So, we usually talk about going to pizza places. So I'll keep that theme going. But this particular pizza place, if this album were a pizza, only has one recipe for pizzas, and it's on a piece of paper. And you know how, like, there's pictures of, like, old vintage food ads and stuff, and the stuff usually looks gross and it's weird?
Fuck are you talking
Like,
about?
we text it back and forth.
Oh,
Look at this
yeah,
weird
okay.
food.
Like, yeah, 50s food.
Yeah, 50s
Yeah.
food. So this is a picture of a pizza basically out of the Betty Crocker's cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like all sepia colored and weird looking.
Yeah, like weird greens,
but
lime
then
greens.
somebody has taken it and also done Photoshop work to it to like really saturate it and make it kind of funky looking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this crazy thing, and this is the recipe. They have it posted up there. So you go in and there's a guy making it based off of this thing, and you get it, and you're like, oh, I thought it was going to be weird, but it's pretty good. And then you go in and you get it again, and you're like, it's a little different because there's so much going on in this album.
Got a taste for it.
Yeah, you got to taste for it, and then you go back and you like start hearing things you didn't hear before. You start tasting things you didn't hear before. Because I said early on in this album, there are so many little noises. We talked about the sitar, but like a lot of this is very dreamlike, and there are a lot of things going on in pan jobs. So pizza place is a little hole in the wall in the city somewhere.
Oh, it's definitely in the city. You
Like-
definitely have to walk there.
Like you have to know where it is, like because it only has like, oh, it's the place that has the green sticker outside the door, and that's the only way to find it. But you go in there, and it's like pretty cool, and yeah,
So,
it's good.
So I have a similar kind of experience. So this pizza, it's a new pizza place by the same person that runs my favorite pizza shop. And this is doing, like you said, some weird stuff. They're doing hot honey. They're putting some unusual ingredients on there. And I go there and I'm like, well, it's not as good as the first place, but the same thing happens. It clicks, and I
Like
just
the next day, you're like,
yeah.
damn.
So I'm ordering this pizza on subscription
Yeah.
like every day for 3 months, and that's where we're at.
My pizza gives me a similar experience, but I'm going to use the sauce. So on the surface, it's pizza. Looks pretty good. I cut a wedge out, right, and I eat it. And I'm like, man, this is really good pizza. I can't figure it out.
Did you
right?
just refer to a slice
It's
of
a
pizza
wedge.
as a wedge?
It's a wedge.
Okay.
Right? I'm going to cut me a wedge.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to eat it. but I can't figure out why it's so tasty, right? Till like the third piece.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay.
It's cinnamon.
It's the sauce,
shit, right?
right? It's the... And on this, the sauce could be a myriad of things. Could be the sitar. Could be the 70s vibe.
Yeah.
Could be just the way she sings on certain things. But first time through and at a glance, like if we weren't doing this project, I probably wouldn't have got to this album yet, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad I did.
I feel like the pizza would have the sitar right on top, just so you can be like, oh, that's weird.
Garnish.
Yeah, like there's a weird garnish on it.
Like the little Barbie table that they put in pizzas.
yeah.
Except it's a sitar.
There's people sitting around.
This pizza would also have, at 3 different points on it, a Twix. And you're just like, why the fuck are these here? It doesn't need the Twix.
And then the last bite is the Twix.
Yeah.
Ooh, Twix crust. Now, see, we did the
Stuffed
tomahawk
Twix.
one, and you're like, this pizza's got Skittles on it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
weird,
what
and
it
I don't
was.
want
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But this one's weird in a better way.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
Yeah, you just pick the Twix off.
yeah, it's dessert, basically.
And the first one, you're like, yeah, it's a Twix. It's fine. It's fine.
What's wrong?
Then after that, you're just like, I don't need the other 2.
Yeah,
But it
highly
was-
recommended though. I think it's really, and I recommend all her stuff. I think she's so good, and like I said, I was a little let down the first time I listened to this, but that was my fault. Like this is a really good album.
If you are one of those people who, we've talked about this ad nauseum on Belonging Songs, but if you're one of those people who likes to be challenged by an album, she's a perfect artist for you, because you're going to get some pop tracks that are just easy to get you in, but you're also going to get some really amazingly thoughtfully composed
Well, take her
tracks.
last album. That was so glossy and flashy and completely different than this in the best way. So they're not even the same thing, but they're coming from the same artist, which is so cool, which is why I do like her so much, because she does challenge the
evolves.
listener that way. Yeah.
So we do the usual sign-out stuff that we already did.
Did
Thanks
half of
for
it, yeah.
listening.
We'll
We
be back
will...
next week with
see.
Belonging Songs.
Yeah.
Gonna listen to one of Brad's songs that we're gonna finish this week.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully.
Oh, she's going to be done.
She done.
As long as you finish it.